I'm starving and I want a burrito. Turns out that the best burrito in the United States is about 500 miles from here, so I loaded up the Super Duke.
Alrighty, folks, we're officially on the road, finally. It's been a bit of a hectic morning, because yesterday I was at the racetrack, and then we went out to go see a comedy show here in town right before we left. So I ended up having to pack, so we're getting started. Like all of my road trips, every single one of them starts a couple hours late. I'm expecting to have to stop for gas on the Duke every, I don't know, 100 miles would be my guess. Maybe a little bit more, depending on how frequent gas stops actually are. I've done this drive a handful of times, and it's not great. Once you get past Fredericksburg, things really start to thin out in Texas. There's just not a lot between like Fredericksburg and El Paso. Now, one thing you may notice if you're paying attention is I have on my dashboard a little indicator lamp, a little warning. That is the front brake switch, which means my cruise control is disabled. But I genuinely have no idea what's going on with the switch. I have a fresh one, a brand new one sitting at home. I just never had time to install it. So I may be doing a 432 mile road trip today with no cruise control, which really sucks. Welcome to El Dorado. No, not that one. This is El Dorado, Texas. Pretty much what you would call flyover country. They do have a stoplight, and they do have some gas. That is the biggest thing that we're going to need now, because we're actually getting into the part of Texas where towns are pretty disparate, and there's like nothing between them. So we've got 89 miles on this tank, and according to the bike, it thinks it can go another 60 miles. The town of Iran is about 100 miles from here, so we're going to need to stop and gas up before we move on. Luckily, there's a Stripes right here, and fingers crossed, they still have high octane. Let's see. 91. Damn it. I'm just going to have to be nice to the motor. 91 is probably okay, but, not great. One thing that is driving me nuts, though, is the front brake switch for the last 90 miles has not worked. So I've just been holding it open, and that is not fun. Well, let's see how long this next stretch is going to be that I'm going to be running without cruise control. Alrighty, well, we have put down a few more miles yet, and let's see here. We are 377 miles out, so we've done about 100-ish miles, something like that. Maybe 80 miles. But on the plus side, my cruise control's back. Yay, that's awesome. I love having weird electrical gremlins. That's awesome. That's so great. If you can't tell, I'm being sarcastic. There's nothing worse than trying to chase down an electrical gremlin, because it's one of those things where if you can't consistently replicate the problem, you can't really fix it because you can't figure out what's wrong. But for the time being, my cruise control works, and that's what's important, because it's a lot of this for the next, 300 miles. It's actually not going to be bad for the next, 60. On the plus side, once we get out into, actual hill country, Texas does get kind of pretty. I will say, though, the Duke, so comfortable. I am so comfortable right now. It is really nice to have a nice, roomy, comfy bike that can haul stuff. And because my suspension is electronically adjustable, I can set it however I want. I currently have it on the comfort setting. So if I go back over here, you can see comfort with the auto standard, preload, and anti-dive. I prefer running anti-dive on here. That's the only thing I've truly been able to identify working. Just in case I have to, hop on the brakes pretty hard. It's just nice to have, I guess. Well, everybody, welcome to the most miserable and depressing town I have ever rolled through. This is Fort Stockton, Texas, otherwise known as Sadnessville. This is a place so bland and banal and boring that even the Mesas decided to get the hell out of here and head for the hills. There is nothing here, literally nothing here. I don't understand why it exists. I'd imagine probably oil and railroads, but every time I come here, I just feel sad. I'm really glad we're just taking 10 through here, and then we're going to head on down to Alpine. And Alpine is actually a really cool town. But Fort Stockton, especially at night, this place gives me the heebie-jeebies. Alrighty, this here is Alpine. The reason why I think this town is kind of cool, first of all, we've got the Sul Ross University, which actually looks just kind of cool. It's a neat little looking campus, and this town feels very West Coast. It feels very much like Oregon. Like a little town somewhere in the Bend area almost, or like in the valley by Bend, in that sort of high desert area. I don't know. I just like the vibe out here. It feels kind of interesting, and it definitely doesn't feel like you're going to get your soul sucked out by a vampire. We are now 27 minutes outside of Marfa, and 27 minutes from being off the bike, which I am looking forward to at this point, not gonna lie. And welcome to Marfa. This is a mecca for art students, hipsters, and alien conspiracy theorists, which there may be some overlap in all those. Apparently the lights were just happening, or are just happening. I have no idea.
Well, we made it, finally. Took long enough. Honestly, it wasn't that bad, though. The Duke is so easy to ride for a long time when the cruise control works that, I don't know, the miles just sort of melt by. The bigger problem, other than the cruise control, because that's a temporary issue, the bigger problem is when you're really, going 90 to 100 miles an hour on that, the Duke is so thirsty. That's probably the biggest issue with that thing, is fuel efficiency and Super Duke do not belong in the same sentence, which makes it not too great, although it is nice to stop every like 100 to 120 miles to get off the bike, stretch your legs a little bit, and work out the Charlie horses in your butt, because even though I've got the ergo seat, it's honestly not that comfortable. I've seen some guys put like covers on their seats that cause them to breathe a little bit better. Maybe I'd do that and see if that helps. Those are just kind of ugly though. Anyway, let's go get some food. The burrito's gonna have to wait. I can't get out and get the burrito yet because the lady works out of her house and she's closed. So tomorrow. Alrighty, folks, welcome to day 2 and welcome to downtown Marfa, such as it is. It was really nice to actually get into town last night, have a nice, like, relaxed early dinner, and then pass the fuck out, because the last 2 days I had spent at Coda learning to ride the 660 on a racetrack, and now I did, what, like 7 hours on the highway to get out here. That was a thing. But now we're finally achieving the goal and getting burritos right here. And you can see, like I said, this is just at some lady's house. She just serves burritos out back. It's kind of a Marfa institution, so I don't normally film a lot of food stuff because I think it's really tacky, but considering that the whole point of coming out here was to get a burrito, I figured I might as well at least show you what the burrito looks like. Yep, that's what I rode 1,200 miles for. Ground beef, taters, and a freshly squeezed and pressed and cooked tortilla. And some verde sauce. Trust me, it's worth the drive. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but having the brake light switch error on my bike didn't just mean that I don't have cruise control, it also means that I wasn't illuminating the rear tail light on my bike whenever I got on the brakes. And that's a big issue when you're riding on long highway stretches. Luckily, I had this on my helmet, which is a brake-free helmet light. This thing has become a staple of my riding kit because it installs in seconds, it's got a long battery life, and it goes off when it senses any form of deceleration. So whether you're rolling off the throttle, you're grabbing the brakes, or you're just using your quick shifter to engine brake. It's bright enough to be seen both during the day and during the night, and it's got 3 different modes, one for high contrast, one for night riding, and then one for inclement weather, which basically functions like a hazard light. This thing is an easy extra layer of protection looking out for you whenever you're riding around in traffic. So click that link down in the description below if you want to check it out for yourself, and use the code SPITE for $10 off your order. With that, let's get back out there. Well, welcome to day 3 of our little West Texas adventure here, and today we're abandoning Marfa for an even smaller town in the middle of even more nowhere, and that is Terlingua. Terlingua is actually a really, really cool spot. The way I like to refer to it is if, you know, you come out to Marfa to shirk responsibility, you go out to Terlingua after you hide the body. But in order to get there, we're gonna have to go through Presidio, which is literally one of the biggest border towns. There's a big border crossing there. So, you know, if we wanted to, if we had our passports, we could run into Mexico for a day, but we're gonna hang a left at Mexico and then run along the Rio Grande for like 70 miles, which is really cool. Alrighty, folks, welcome to the town of Presidio, and if we keep going that way, we end up in Mexico. So we're gonna go this way so we stay in Texas. This right here is the border. That is the Rio Grande right there. So you can see the other side
of that river, that would be Mexico. So yeah, you could literally throw a rock and hit Mexico. This also happens to be one of my favorite roads in the entire United States. This is FM 170, which connects Terlingua to Presidio. And a lot of it runs along the Rio right there. And then some of it goes into Big Bend Ranch State Park, which is all of this. All that there is Big Bend Ranch. It's a gigantic state park. And then on the other side of Terlingua is actual Big Bend, which we'll end up in at some point because it's really pretty. There's a great park road that runs through it. Well, folks, that right there, that is the Terlingua ghost town. And then a little bit further down is like Terlingua proper. We have a Airbnb kind of up here on the left in a little bit, which we're gonna fly by. But like I said, if you need to come hide after you've hidden the body, this is the place you want to be. Nobody messes with nobody out here. It's a pretty secluded spot, and in fact, I remember the first time I was out here, one of the townsfolk when we were riding off-road was like, yeah, you don't want to go out that way because there's a lady who's nuts and she'll come out and shoot you with a shotgun. Interesting experience, that. But yeah, so our Airbnb is one of these little like casitas right here.
Well, y'all, welcome to the edge of nowhere. What kind of feels like a town out of Fallout New Vegas, except in Texas. This is actually an old mining town. Terlingua was Mercury back in the day. So there's all sorts of ruins all through this town. Like you can see up on the hills there, some old buildings that are all falling apart. All these, this building right back here, the Starlight Theater, that's a original building. It's, you know, obviously been renovated and stuff, but this is such a cool spot. Honestly, I think this might be one of my favorite towns in the entire United States. It's such a cool place. And you wouldn't think, for being out in the middle of the desert, that there's, you know, surprisingly modern amenities and stuff out here. The only thing I'm lacking is 93 octane. So we're going to be spending a couple of days here goofing around, and that right back there, that's Big Bend National Park, which we'll be riding around in tomorrow. But for now, I'm going to go drink a Diet Coke somewhere inside where it's cool, because it's, even though it's, you know, not very humid, it's hot as balls out here. Gonna go enjoy some air conditioning and watch the sunset, I think. Catch you guys tomorrow.
Well, folks, welcome to the morning of day 4, I think? Yeah, day 4. We're riding out through Terlingua into Study Butte, which is basically this whole section of stuff right here. It's basically, it's Terlingua plus, basically. Because this road will actually head down into Big Bend, and there's some really cool stuff to go see down in Big Bend, so we're just going to ride the park roads for a little bit. There is actually some pretty decent off-road riding in Big Bend too, which is fun. I have yet to ride in Big Bend proper. I've ridden in Big Bend Ranch State Park, kind of back by Presidio, which there's a ton of fun roads in there. I very much enjoyed that section. It's kind of rocky and gravelly. This is actually more, you know, like dirt roads and stuff. But obviously there's not going to be a lot of dirt riding happening today, seeing as how we were on the Super Duke. This may have some dirt bike DNA, but not enough for me to be comfortable taking 180 horsepower in the dirt. So we're just going to be cruising the park roads and enjoying the day. We're basically taking it easy before we have to mount up tomorrow and ride 8 hours back. But anyway, let's go goof around in the park for a bit, shall we? Man, there is something to be said for coming out here and riding these park roads on a bike. You know, last time we were out here, I cruised around in the Mazda a little bit. You had the AC going, you had music going and stuff, and you know, I still have music going in my helmet. You know, I'm not a maniac, but it's kind of fun being out in the elements. You know, there's a bunch of different smells that you actually get rolling through all of this greenery and going down by the water and the taller trees and stuff. Or shrubs, I guess. There's not really any trees out here. But doing all this stuff on a bike, it's different. It's special. And I don't know, there's definitely something to be said for doing a trip like this on a bike that may not necessarily be built for it. You know, the Duke is not really a touring bike, even though I've got bags for it, even though it's comfortable and I've got the ergo seat and all this stuff. It's not really a touring bike. But when I get where I'm going, I have a sport bike to ride, and then I can be a little bit more, I can have a little bit more fun in the twisties. I think I have more fun riding not touring bikes around. But now we got to do another. It's crazy how big this park is. We've done 60 miles already since our last gas stop. We got to go into Panther Junction to actually pay the fee, and it's 13 more miles of this, and then we're gonna have to swing back and ride out, and it's gonna be like 25 miles. But man, is it worth the trip. This is such a cool spot. All right, it is the morning of day 5, and day 5 is going to be the longest day. We are heading back to Austin, and it is damn near a full 8 hours on the road. Right now, I'm not dealing with any brake switch issues, which is nice. That means that my cruise control is going to work. And there's really not much else to say other than we got a lot of miles to put down. But I will say the Duke has performed admirably, and I expect it to continue performing admirably. So failing a complete failure, I think the next cut in the show is going to be us back in the garage for a post-mortem on the Duke.
Alrighty, y'all, we're gonna keep this one informal because I'm freaking exhausted. It's a long week. But what I think it really proves is how nice the Super Duke is on the road. It's not because I was in the wind that I'm tired. It's just because I was riding the bike every single day for 5 days. And I don't tend to do a lot of big days back to back. You know, 200 or 300 miles is usually my max. Riding 400 or 500 miles in a day, it's kind of a lot for me. I did end up squaring off this rear tire, which really sucks. It's got some life left in it. It's probably about halfway through its lifespan. But that's what the Super Duke does. It eats rear tires. The bags are great for a week-long trip, and honestly, the biggest complaint I have is the front brake switch. It's really annoying that, you know, one little piece of plastic and electronics and silicone took out, you know, my entire cruise control if I so much as used it. But I figured out a way that, you know, if I didn't use my front brake at all, I wouldn't have to worry about it. That's the next thing that you'll see me doing with the Super Duke, is actually fixing it. So, till then, catch you in the next one. See you later.